Bonjour à tous, je vous présente Vincent TERRASI, qui est responsable data chez OVH.
Et je vous présente BACHA, responsable SEO à OVH.
So Rémi BACHA is the head of SEO, search engine optimization at OVH. Do you know the first Clarke law? Let me give you a hint. Arthur Clarke, he's one of the biggest science fiction writers. He's written the Space Odyssey, 2001, the Space Odyssey, and he said following: any sufficiently advanced technology is undistinguishable from magic. And indeed, we're going to talk about magic, and we're also going to talk about advanced technology. Oh, that's much better. Let's take the crystal ball of SEO. What do I see in my SEO crystal ball? I can see how I can optimize my ranking and the content via semantics. If I look even more inside my crystal ball, I can see why I need to work on my load times. And I also look last time, I see where the robots go to and how I can influence the search engine robots. Everything I quoted here is what we call SEO optimization. And for many people nowadays, this is still magic. Well, a search engine optimization has reached a key stage in its evolution. On one hand, we have an explosion of data, lots of data, more and more of it, produced by all our SEO tools, monitoring tools, produced by the servers, produced by our web performance tools, produced by our APIs, produced by our scripts. And on the other hand, we have artificial intelligence that is deeply changing, profoundly changing the way our search engines of today are working. So, faced with these two situations, there's many of us asking ourselves questions. What is the future of SEO based on how we did it today? What are going to happen to all these optimization techniques that are working today, that are being used today? Well, at OVH, this is an issue we've been dealing with for quite some time now. And the Data SEO projects are starting to become numerous at OVH. This year, the OVH SEO team has used about 25% of its workout time on data science and SEO. So doing data SEO, as we call it at OVH, that doesn't mean we're doing technology for the sake of technology, that we're not doing data science for the sake of data science. We're doing SEO in another way, a different way, by using all the tools of the data science with always the same objective: increase traffic, increase relevance of the brand and brand notoriety, and of course, and in the end, increase sales. So, faced with the entry of data science in the universe of SEO, you certainly ask yourself, what is the challenge here? And this is what we are going to talk to you about in the next 30 minutes. We're going to see the first time how data has entered into SEO and what data we're talking about. We're also going to see how artificial intelligence is changing in the search engines as we know them. Also going to see how at OVH we're already anticipating these topics, and we'll be finished with a very concrete use case of how to use data science in the service of SEO. before we start, let's do a quick look back. Let's go back to 2012. I start doing SEO, and just like all beginning SEO, I start looking for my first two SEO tools, and very quickly I'm going to need a web crawler. What's a web crawler? It's a tool that is basically going to follow all links, and it's going to collect a number of data. The first crawler I'm going to use, it's Xenolinks. And Xenolink, very quickly, I'm going to reach the limits of this tool. And I'm going to go for another crawler, which you might know, which is called Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog is a web crawler that is far more powerful than Xeno, but also that brings back much more data than Xeno. And then we're going to move on. My needs are going to continue to evolve and increase. And I'm going to look for new tools. I'm going to look for positioning tools in order to measure the ranking of the pages in the search engines. I'm going to look at the web analysis, Google Analytics, API, Internet, WebPix. I'm going to look at the duplicate content tool, web performance tools, the UX tools, tools to measure the semantic quality of a page. And I'm not going to stop there. Tools, we have listed all the tools. In SEO, there are over 180 of them. And you need to know that an expert or SEO consultant only use about 20 of these. That could seem much, but if you demultiply it by the number of search engines, Google, Baidu, Yandex, and if you add to it all the API access, all the personal scripts, and on top of that you include the fact that if in France we only look at the semantic software, there's numerous examples, OnePoint.fr, SEO Quantum, Visiblix, utext.guru, etc., etc. So you realize there's lots and lots of data, and data in SEO is just exploding. Today, we can very easily say that SEO, it's part of the big data trade, because we have the 3 V, you've already heard these things, the first V, variety of data. In SEO, you can work on SQL database, but also on non-structured data, like comments from a blog. In SEO, we can also work on volumes that are more growing and growing. A couple of years ago, the softwares that would allow us to handle hundreds of thousands of keywords. Today, we're talking about hundreds of millions of keywords. In a couple of years, we will have to manage thousands of millions of keywords. And the third V, velocity. Extremely important. Why do we have to be quick? Because it is very important nowadays to adapt as fast as possible the web pages to the needs, to the requests for new content. So we have the 3 Vs, volume, velocity, and we have now a threefold mission. The first mission is understanding the data. What's the use of data? What do we do with it? How do we use them? What is the relevance of this data? That is the first fact. The second job is to manipulate and analyze this data. And also in a completely novel way, we're going to try to find something different in this data in order to distinguish ourselves from the competitors. What we're going to try is the number of viewed pages, the number of visitors, but especially in e-commerce to multiply our sales. So the last job is very important. We're going to try to bring value to data. And how do we do this? We're going to share this among expert teams, and in order to categorize them in expertise, we use data visualization tools. There's lots of them on the tools. Table software, Power BI, even Excel can be sufficient. And on that, there's a word coming back. We're not going to spell it out now, but it starts with data and it finishes with science. So we're going to continue the analysis. When we do SEO, we are really faced with the secret of the algorithms of the search engines. And based on these secrets, faced with these secrets, we kind of try to follow a scientific experimental approach, almost an empiric approach. So what's this empiric, what's behind this empiric approach? Well, you see here what's on the screen. The first stage is we do an observation. We can see that on the first page of Google, the title tags always contain the main keyword. The fact that we have the keyword in the title tag is that a positioning criteria for Google, and we're going to formulate a hypothesis on that. Maybe Google uses the keyword in the title tag and uses the title tag as a relevance criteria because it is one of the tags that is best filled out on the pages. And then we're going to test to see if yes or no it positively influences the categorization of the title and the ranking of the pages in the search engine through the title tag. And then we're going to produce knowledge. We're going to produce general knowledges, general hypotheses. Yes, we're going to say, okay, the fact that you have your keyword in the title tag, it's going to influence the Google ranking. But this empiric analysis method is starting to become more and more obsolete. And there's a major evolution that is arriving today. It's the data-centric evolution, because now we have artificial intelligence that is working out, that is being added to the algorithms of search engines. So today, the SEO is not just data-centric, is not necessarily more oriented around the experiences. It's a combination of the experiences, of the empiric approach, and data-driven strategies and data-centric strategies. It's the massive analysis and treatment, exploratory treatment of all this data that leads to knowledge, to the knowledge, and not the experiences that every one of us can lead in on each side. On the search engine level, we're going to imagine that there's two Googles. There's the old Google and the new Google. The old Google, you have to imagine like a static code with lots of conditions. If the page contains the main keyword in the title page, and it's fast loading, and it's 500 words, and the page has lots of links towards it, then this page should be positioned higher up in the ranking. Then we have the new Google that uses RankBrain. RankBrain is a Google function. This is the arrival of AI in the search engine algorithms. It's an approach that is based on neural networks. You've heard the deep learning concept today. Yes, that is exactly that, what you're thinking of. When we're talking about neural networks and artificial intelligence in the case of Google, we're talking about non-supervised learning. That means very concretely that the search engine is able to make its own decisions. If we apply this to a specific page, maybe some of you have an e-commerce website. We've taken a drone. You want to buy a drone. Maybe in the drone topic on Google, it's completely useless to have incoming links on your page, for instance. Maybe as far as drone topics are concerned, it's completely useless to have the keyword in the title tag. And that is exactly what RankBrain does. It adapts the relevance factors for the ranking of the pages to a specific theme, a specific topic. And this is going to lead us to numerous different situations. And here we have a certain number of very worrying situations. This is what the SEO is afraid of. In one, we're going to have a change of recognized factors. And it's not humans who are going to decide. It's artificial intelligence who is going to choose the most relevant factors in one specific topic. And then second, of course, this artificial intelligence is going to be able to create new factors that have never been imagined by the SEO teams, by the Google engineers. And then the third element, that is the most delicate one. We are going to be seeing in the coming years, we're going to see very important ranking losses, ranking mistakes, and changes in the ranking results without anyone noticing it. And then number 4, and this is really prospective, then we entering into the ultra-personalized stage. That is the capacity of the search engines to display search results based on your mood, on your level of knowledge, on your agenda, and that can go really very, very far. If you step back a little bit on our trade as SEO experts, I summarize, the human being, he's at the process, center of the process. But the human being is the one that chooses the data. They choose the data, they choose the KPIs, and of course all the mechanical actions that you can do in SEOs, choosing keywords, filling out if-at, if-else databases. But today, in an age where Google uses deep learning, artificial intelligence, machine learning, do you really think that RankBrain, don't you think that it's high time to upgrade the science of SEO? I can still go if you want to work.
So welcome to the era of data SEO. And this will be very important because we have created a new profession. The data scientist SEO. I'm going to be very precise. It is not at all a data scientist who's going to do SEO. It's an SEO who's going to learn data science. It's maybe a little detail or nuance for you, but for me it means a lot. In the 1990s, we never asked engineers in IT to specialize in medicine. Well, on the contrary, it was the doctors who had to take in hand the software that was created by these engineers. Now, to become a data SEO, in press conferences, people have asked me this all the time, and said to be in a data SEO, you have to learn data science. One of the questions that Vincent and I asked ourselves when we wanted to really qualify this subject is, what technique would a data scientist use on a daily basis? And the most important question, ultimately, is how will we put this technique, how can we place all of these tools in the service to help the SEO, to develop more traffic, to develop a greater notoriety, and also to be more efficient. And we found a very efficient MOOC, a MOOC on Coursera, which is called the Data Science Parkour. And in this parkour, you will see all the basics of the data science job, the Air Studio, Git, the command lines, and all the toolbox. And we'll go even further with the Air programming to be able to create your own scripts, automate your actions. We were talking about a lot of manual actions for the SEO, and the goal of data science is to work on a lot of things that might not, and to automate as much as possible, especially things that don't provide a lot of high added value. And this allows us to find new ways to collect data, to handle them and process them. And this is where it'll be very interesting, because we will have the machine learning. We'll have machine learning. We'll have technologies of big data. And the first mission of the data scientists, as we imagine it, is to build its Data Mart, the SEO Data Mart. Now, before talking about a Data Mart, I want to explain what we mean by a data lake. A data lake, in the universe of big data, is a sort of huge database that groups together all the data that's useful for the company, and if possible, without transforming it. A data mart is a little data lake dedicated to a particular job or sector. This is why we have a data mart dedicated to traffic and notably for the SEO. So in this data mart, we can imagine putting logs, server logs, external informational sources like SEMrush, maybe Majestic. We can also think about Visibilis and keywords, tools, all of this to be able to use them later and apply processing like machine learning, which I'm going to talk about next. Now, what we're going to show you now is the way in which we use different types of this data, in particular this here, to a mission for the second mission of the SEO data scientist, which we're going to present to you, which is directly related to the GrandBrain update by Google, which we just talked about. As I'm sure you understand now, today it's becoming very complicated to know exactly which search factors need to be privileged when you're doing the SEO on a site. Factors, known factors, there's more than 300 known factors. I'm not going to list them all, but that's a lot. And when you have to give priorities to certain actions, we don't know necessarily where to start. So we're going to try certain things. But there is artificial intelligence that makes its own decisions to help us. And we're going to try to get generic recipes for SEO. And this is exactly what we're going to show you. We are going to come up with this result here. We're going to show you the variables that are important for SEO in a specific sector of activity. Now, would you like to know what you need to do to be on the first page of Google search in your area, your theme? Do you know what? Would you like to know what you need to do to be on the first page on Google for your website, for your niche sector? Well, it's exactly what we're going to show you today. So, how do you do this? Well, we're going to show you the flow that allows you to predict the URLs. It seems complicated, but we're going to simplify it. We simplified it to an extreme, and I'm sure you can all use this. The first step is obviously the capacity to retrieve all the data from all the different SEO software. The second step is once you have retrieved all this data, we need to merge it, clean it, sanitize it. We're going to give you details of that later in a moment. And then the second thing is we're going to enrich them as much as possible because we know that we need to work with all the on-site and off-site factors possible. So we're going to really try to enrich a maximum amount of this data, and then the green part is where we're going to do machine learning. And to do that, for the last year at OVH, we've been using a software program called DataEkoo, or Ekoo. DataEkoo, which is a platform for data science, which is available free of charge, made from community, and this is really data science as a service. I'm just going to give you a more concrete example. About a year ago, we already presented this work based on technologies of external languages, etc. Now, very easily, you'll be able to use data science with click and GIF. And where it's going to go very, very far is in our case for URL prediction and for the search engines, we really needed to have the AML. That means automated machine learning. Automated machine learning, which allows us to know very precisely the algorithm that is the most efficient to use to resolve our problem. Now, I think you're probably asking the following question. Why? Why? Do you know? We've been talking about knowing your own ranking factors, but why? Why do we need to go that far? Well, very simply, because when you create new content, you're going to invest time and That means you're going to invest money. Now, with this method, you will be sure of investing your time in the right place, in the right manners. And we always forget this, but in SEO, we often update our old content. Now, with this method, you will be able to be sure that this is not, that your changes will not harm your old content. And now we're going to go into details. How does it work? To put into place this method, we've done what we call reverse engineering. The principle is to imagine the function of the object by observing it from the outside. This is exactly what we tried to do with Google, and in particular with Run-Wine. And to understand how it works in a particular sector of activity. Now, we have to admit something, we have to confess something to you. Even with the best algorithms, with machine learning, even in calling on the best SEO consultants of the world, predicting an exact position on Google is impossible, in fact. There are so many external factors that we cannot control that it is impossible to say that tomorrow, if you follow this recipe, you will be #1 on Google. Now, what we've done instead is we've tried to simplify the problem by making it binary. Will this page that I plan to issue have an opportunity, a chance of being on first page of Google or not? To start working, we began with a lot of data, the 5 sources, if you recall. We looked at them earlier. And the basis of our data set was a list of thousands of keywords around the sector of the domain names. So this is what we're going to start with to create our basic data set. Now, for each of these keywords, which makes up our list, we're going to get the 100 first pages positioned on Google. Now you're going to ask me, why not take only the first 10 results to see what we need to do? Well, in fact, we're also interested in the 90 other results to know what we should not do. So how are we going to get this information? Now, to retrieve this information, we've worked with software that's very well known, SEMrush. And what I want to say is that on all the software applications that we're talking about, we created our own plugins that's going to facilitate the importation of your data from your SEO applications. And all you have to do is a few clicks, and now you're not obliged to use our plugins. You can import your files directly. But there is a very important thing you need to bear in mind, and that is to build a data set that is representative. You need to work with a significant number of results. And once you have, in fact, we had a package of more than 300,000 URLs. Once you have those 300,000 URLs, we worked with Remy to enrich that data. We did Streaming Frog. We could have taken another, but the idea was to enrich these URLs. So with each URL, we're going to go to the site, and we're going to collect more than some 40 different characteristics. For example, the length of the titles, the number of keywords, the ratios, etc., etc. And that is very, very important to try to understand and what the artificial intelligence is working on, what factors on which it is working. And you will see in red that when we retrieve data, there is both fish and fowl. And this is where sanitizing the data is so important. First, you need to remove all the invalid URLs. That already causes a lot of problems quite often. Web servers are too slow. That's a classic problem. Unfortunately, not everybody is hosted at OVH. So we also have very long response times. That's often caused by programming times. And we can talk about all of these problems, but these URLs are things that we need to just remove systematically, because bots are not interested in them. And then, now, once we have all the characteristics, we're going to find other off-site criteria. We're going to look at data that comes from the tool Majestic. Majestic is a tool that retrieves information on links that point to URLs in particular, URLs that go to domain names. And what interests me, what interests us, is two main variables, two main metrics, which is the citation flow and the trust flow. These two are metrics that go from 0 to 100, and overall the citation flow represents an indicator that will allow us to know the volume of links that enter for a given URL. Next, we have the trust flow, which is an indicator that represents the quality of the incoming links. For example, the links that point to my page, are they in the same theme as the subject that I'm addressing on my page? Because at the end of the day, we have known for a long, long time, it could be a general truth about SEO, that the fact of having lots of links that point to a URL is a factor that is very, very strong to position it on the first page. And this is what we're going to try to look at in the sector of domain names, whether this works or not. So we continue to enrich the data set. We're going to now look at data that is semantic. And for that, we use the tool Visiblis. Now, this tool, and the strength of this tool, is to give a score between 0 and 100 of pertinence of the page content or title with regard to a particular keyword. And that is exactly what we did in our data set. If you remember, we retrieved the 100 URLs present for our thousands of keywords. And for each of these lines, we retrieved the two indicators that are here, the score of pertinence for the title and the pertinence score for the content of the page. We now have a data set that starts to become quite rich. We have already retrieved several metrics for each of the URLs that we were interested in. And we've done this for several 100,000 lines. So we're starting to get a pretty interesting volume of data to be able to start drawing conclusions. Now, to put into place machine learning, we're going to click on the top 10 column. This is a column that we created manually ourselves in our data set to see whether our criteria is in the top 10 or not. So SEMrush, for example, which we collected in the beginning, we will be able to know whether a site is positioned in a top 10 position or not. Now, if it's between 1 and 10, we say yes. If it's between 11 and 100, we put no. Then we click on this is top 10 column, because this is what we're really looking for. And then we will click on create prediction model. And to do this, we will do a machine learning algorithm called XGBoost. Now, today, this is the day where we're giving everybody gifts, and so we're going to really save ourselves 3 days of testing, because a machine learning algorithm has quite a lot of challenges. You need to compare them, you need to test them, and I'll get back to that later. But with XGBoost, in 2 words, it's based on 2 main concepts. What you see on the right, which is what we call the learning trees, and you can see different operations, which I'm not going to go into detail, but it's the linear regulation that allows you to choose a boost factor on the most important variables to determine the most important variables, the variables that I need to work on in my theme. Now, we're going to look at how the configuration and we're still in the DataEkoo solution, so we're going to focus a lot on knowledge, but you also need a lot of knowledge to configure the parameters, even if they're softs, and some of them are proposed by default, and in order to be able to come up with the algorithm with the best possible efficiency. Now, the platform that you can see here allows us to test several different algorithms. Just a quick switch on/off. So This is IG Boost that gives the best results, so we really focused on IG Boost. And at the end of 10 minutes, you will be able to obtain your first results. So what happens during those 10 minutes? Once again, machine learning is not magic. It will apply automatically the standards. In other words, it will normalize the data. We've seen earlier that you had scores from 0 to 100. You had a number of incoming links, etc. It's going to, above all, work on the data on 70% of the data set, and it's going to apply them to the 30 remaining percent to be able to measure its efficiency. Once we have the model, we will be able, for each of these URLs, to be able to know whether they can position themselves or not in the top 10 of Google. Now, we're going to show you how far we were able to go. What you see here is not magic. This is the SEO of tomorrow. This is the data-SEO. We have the important variables for our theme. So we chose the domain names. I'm just going to ask you to look at what we call the ISE. The more you look, the value is close to 1, and the more the model is reliable. That means that if, to summarize, once you have your model, if you retrieve your URL, then all the same characteristics will go through this algorithm of machine learning, and you will know with total precision whether the page can position itself in the top 10 or not. I believe that today we've given you a very powerful method to do data SEO, but there are other methods as well. We have seen together 2 uses of data science to do search engine optimization. We've talked about data Mart SEO. We've talked about prediction models for positioning thanks to machine learning. But ultimately, there's lots of other possibilities for using data science for SEO. You can imagine automatic generation of text. You can imagine analytical predictions, predictions of positioning, prediction of rise in traffic. You could also imagine all the process mining as well. That means the studies of the behaviors of exploratory robots, the behavioral studies of visits to the site using aggregation. And we have seen that today, through machine learning and also through deep learning, that machines are starting to resolve more and more complex problems. And all these changes will lead us to evolutions or changes in our jobs, even new jobs. We've seen together the data SEO, the Association of Data Science and Search Engine Optimization, but why not think about data doctors in the future with the use of deep learning in radiology, for example, to improve diagnostics. Why not also think about data journalists with the use of big volumes of data to cross sources and verify the reliability of information and anticipate trends. And we can also extend this to a lot of other domains as well. Now, what you're going to see next with the DLP program is companies, startups that are innovating and are making it possible for all these evolutions, all these different jobs, all these developments to come online. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Thank you, and above all, you can follow us on our respective plugs, and if you have any questions, we will be available for you next to the stands. Thank you very much. Thank you.